6 months after the invasion, a new ship appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. It wasn't Zethran. The design was different, elegant and streamlined. And unlike the Zethran, this ship was broadcasting peaceful intentions on every frequency humans could detect. Admiral Jake Morrison, now in command of the Earth Defense Fleet, watched from the bridge of the EDS Defiant. Status on the contact? Captain Amy Chen checked her console. Single vessel, medium size. They're using mathematical sequences to communicate peaceful intent. They're asking permission to approach Earth. Admiral Lisa Grant, present as an observer, studied the alien ship carefully. Could be a trap. They send one ship to make us lower our guard. Possible, Morrison agreed. But if we shoot at every ship that approaches peacefully, we start looking like the bad guys. Weapons ready, but hold fire. Let them approach. But not close. They stop outside our defensive grid. The alien ship took up position exactly where Morrison specified. A small shuttle detached, heading for the space station that had become Earth's diplomatic port. The alien who emerged was unlike anything humans had expected. She was tall and thin with skin that glowed softly. She had 4 arms and moved with incredible grace. Her large eyes seemed to take in everything at once. Through a translator both sides had worked out, she introduced herself. Her name translated roughly as Essence of Morning Light. She asked humans to simply call her Essence. General Paul Rogers met her in the diplomatic chamber. He extended his hand, hoping the gesture wouldn't offend. Essence copied the movement, her touch gentle. "General Rogers," she said, her voice musical even through the translator. "I bring greetings from the Velen Concordance and 6 other member species of the Galactic Council. We have come to understand who you are." Rogers was careful with his words. "And who are we?" "You are the species that defeated the Zethran Empire," Essence replied. "You are the species that builds weapons before you build peace. You are the species that frightens the galaxy." She tilted her head in a way that might have been sympathy. "You are also the species that has lived in isolation for 50,000 years, unaware that your world sits at the edge of what we call the contested zone." Rogers felt a chill. "We need you to explain that." Essence created a holographic display of the galaxy. A large section near the edge was marked in red. "This is the contested zone. 40,000 years ago, a war began here between 2 major alliances. The conflict has never truly ended. It cools, then heats up again, but the border remains heavily militarized. Your star system sits exactly on this border." Morrison, watching from the command center via video link, understood immediately. That's why the Zethran came. They wanted Earth before their enemies could claim it. "Correct," Essence confirmed. "What they didn't know, what none of us knew, was how your species developed. Most intelligent species evolve as the dominant life form on their world. They develop cooperation because they have no significant competition. You had competition. Different human groups, different cultures, all competing for resources. You evolved both cooperation and competition. It made you creative, adaptable, dangerous." Colonel Liu Wei from the Chinese delegation leaned forward. "Is that so unusual?" "Extremely," Essence said. "Your world produced not one but dozens of intelligent subspecies and cultures. You spent thousands of years fighting each other, learning from each other, developing strategies and weapons. By the time you reached the space age, you had accumulated more combat experience than most species gain in their entire existence." Rogers felt cold. "Is that why you're here? To evaluate if we're a threat?" Essence was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was sad. "I am here to offer you a choice, General. The Galactic Council has debated your existence for 6 months. Some argue you should be quarantined, contained within your solar system until you evolve beyond violence. Others argue you should be eliminated before you become too powerful." The room went completely silent. Admiral Grant's voice was dangerously quiet. "And what does the Velen Concordance argue?" "We argue you should be welcomed," Essence said. "You cannot help being shaped by violence any more than my people can help being shaped by peace. But you can choose what you do with your nature. You can choose to be protectors instead of conquerors." She changed the hologram to show multiple star systems. 3 species in galactic history developed as you did. All 3 became conquerors. All 3 were destroyed to prevent them from threatening the galaxy. The Council fears you will follow the same path. Morrison's voice came through the speaker. Will we? I don't know, Essence admitted. But I have studied your history. For all your violence, you also create beauty. You make art. You write music and stories. You dream of peace even as you prepare for war. You are capable of both creation and destruction. That makes you unique. Dangerous, yes, but also valuable. Rogers walked to the window, looking down at Earth. What does the Council want? They want proof you can coexist peacefully with other species. They want to see you will not become the next great threat. And they want this proof quickly, because the Zethran are pressuring the Council to authorize a containment. A blockade, Admiral Grant said flatly. Yes. Automated defense platforms would surround your system. Nothing would be allowed to leave. You would be trapped until you either destroyed yourselves or evolved. Morrison's voice was hard. Or until we broke through by force, which would prove their point about us being dangerous. Precisely, Essence said. An impossible situation, which is why I propose an alternative. Every human in the room focused on her completely. Join the contested zone peacekeeping force, Essence said. Volunteer your ships and soldiers to help maintain the border. Show the galaxy that humans can fight for peace instead of conquest. Prove your violence can protect rather than destroy. You want us to be your soldiers, Colonel Liu Wei said carefully. I want you to be what you are, Essence countered. Warriors. But warriors who choose worthy causes. The peacekeeping force needs species like yours. Most Council species are peaceful. They don't produce enough soldiers. They don't understand conflict the way you do. You could make a real difference. Colonel Danny Hayes, participating via video link, asked the hard question. And if we refuse? If we tell the Council to leave us alone? Then the blockade happens, Essence said simply. And eventually, Earth becomes a forgotten curiosity. A species that could have reached the stars but chose isolation. Rogers looked around the room at humanity's leaders. He saw anger, fear, and determination. We need time to discuss this, he said finally. You have 1 week, Essence replied. Then the Council votes. After she left, the arguments began. They lasted 3 days. Some nations wanted to refuse both options. Others wanted to accept cautiously. The debates were fierce. Colonel Hayes finally made the argument that changed minds. We've been fighting each other for 10,000 years. Every war, every conflict, millions of dead soldiers. All of it was humans killing humans. Maybe it's time we put that experience to better use. Maybe it's time we fought for something bigger than our individual countries. You want us to be the galaxy's attack dog, someone objected. I want us to survive, Hayes shot back. I want us to prove we're more than dangerous animals. I want my children to grow up in a universe where Earth is respected, not feared. Where we're valued, not contained. If that means fighting for others instead of each other, I can live with that. The vote was close, but the decision was made. Earth would join the peacekeeping force. When Morrison delivered the decision to Essence, the alien's skin changed colors in what might have been relief. You have chosen wisely. I will inform the Council. Expect contact soon to begin integration. Essence, Morrison said before she could leave. Why did you advocate for us? Your species is peaceful. We must seem like monsters. The alien turned back. Her large eyes held something like sorrow. 50,000 years ago, my species was nearly extinct. We were attacked by the Vrexian horde. We could not defend ourselves. We were saved by another species, one that knew how to fight. They died protecting us. Billions of them, because they believed we deserved to exist. She moved closer. Your species frightens me, Admiral, but the galaxy sometimes needs to be frightened. Sometimes it needs protectors willing to do what others cannot. I hope you prove worthy of my faith. Morrison met her alien eyes. "We'll try not to disappoint you." 3 weeks later, the first Earth ships entered the contested zone. 20 vessels, crewed by soldiers from 40 nations. They were met by Velen guides who would teach them the rules, the politics, the history. Captain Chen stood beside Morrison on the bridge as new stars appeared on the view screen. "Sir, do you think we made the right choice?" Morrison considered. "I think we made the only choice that doesn't end with us trapped forever. Whether it's right, time will tell." Behind them, Earth continued building. Mars colonies expanded. New ships took shape. Humanity was reaching for the stars, no longer alone but not yet sure of its place. On Corval Prime, Commander Vothkar heard about Earth's decision. He felt something unexpected. Relief. If humans were someone else's problem now, let the galaxy learn what he learned. But High Counselor Draxthor saw it differently. Humans in the contested zone meant humans with access to advanced technology. The contested zone was nothing like Earth's military leaders expected. It wasn't a war zone with constant fighting. It was something stranger. A border frozen in time, where two massive alliances faced each other across empty space, neither willing to attack but neither willing to back down. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the EDS Defiant, looking at the tactical display. Hundreds of stations, thousands of ships all watching each other, waiting. "This is what 40,000 years of war looks like when nobody wins," he said quietly. Captain Amy Chen nodded. "The Velen guides say there are skirmishes sometimes. Pirates, terrorists, small groups trying to restart the war. That's what we're here to stop." Their Velen liaison officer, a young male named Whisper of Twilight, approached. "Admiral Morrison, we are approaching Outpost 7. This will be your first assignment." Outpost 7 was a massive space station sitting exactly on the border between the two alliances. Half the crew was from the Eastern Coalition, half from the Western Alliance. They had been working together uneasily for 300 years. The station commander, a six-legged creature named Clix, met the human delegation in the docking bay. He looked at them with multiple eyes, all showing skepticism. "So you are the humans," Clix said through his translator, "the species that defeated a Zethran fleet. Forgive me, but you look soft, fragile." Colonel Danny Hayes, now commanding the human ground forces, smiled. "Looks can be deceiving, Commander. We're tougher than we appear." "We shall see," Clix replied. "Your first patrol begins tomorrow. There have been reports of unauthorized ships in Sector 9, probably smugglers. You will investigate with a mixed crew, human and Velen together." The next day, Morrison led a small task force into Sector 9, 3 human ships and 2 Velen vessels. The Velen were good pilots but hesitant. They scanned carefully before moving, checked everything twice, avoided any unnecessary risks. "Admiral, we're detecting a ship ahead," Chen reported. "It's not broadcasting any identification codes." "Hail them," Morrison ordered. The smuggler ship didn't respond. Instead, it opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked toward the human vessels. The Velen ships immediately fell back, following their protocol. Retreat, call for reinforcements, avoid casualties. It was the safe choice. The smart choice. The human ships charged forward. "Return fire," Morrison said calmly. "Disable their engines but don't destroy them. We need to question the crew." The human ships moved with a precision that shocked their Velen partners. They dodged fire that should have hit them, returned shots that shouldn't have been possible. Within 2 minutes, the smuggler ship was dead in space, engines destroyed, weapons offline. "Boarding team, you're clear," Morrison ordered. Hayes led the boarding party personally. They breached the smuggler ship's hull and moved through the corridors with practiced efficiency. The smugglers tried to resist, but humans had been doing ship-to-ship combat for centuries. In 5 minutes, it was over. 0 human casualties, all smugglers captured alive. Back on Outpost 7, Commander Clix watched the mission footage in silence. Then he watched it again. Finally, he looked at Morrison with new respect in his multiple eyes. "I have been in the peacekeeping force for 40 years, Clix said slowly. "I have never seen anyone move like that. Your ships, your soldiers. It was like watching a predator hunt." "We've had practice," Morrison said simply. Over the following months, word spread about the humans. They took assignments other peacekeepers avoided. Pirate bases that were too dangerous, smuggling rings that were too well armed, terrorists that were too fanatical. The humans went anyway, and they won. Every time. Captain Chen led a mission to rescue hostages from a pirate stronghold. The pirates had killed the last 3 rescue teams. They thought they were safe. They weren't. Chen's team went in fast and hard. They used tactics the pirates had never seen before. Breaching charges that created multiple entry points, stun grenades that confused and blinded, precise shooting that took down pirates without harming hostages. The entire operation lasted 12 minutes. All hostages rescued. All pirates captured. 0 friendly casualties. Colonel Hayes was sent to deal with the terrorist cell that had been bombing civilian stations. The terrorists were fanatics willing to die for their cause. They had evaded capture for 5 years. Hayes found them in 3 days. He used human intelligence techniques, pattern analysis, psychological profiling, things most peaceful species had never needed to develop. When he found them, he didn't give them the glorious battle they wanted. He just arrested them quietly in the night. Back on Earth, people watched the news reports with pride. Their soldiers, their ships, protecting others, making a difference. Humanity was showing the galaxy what they could do. But not everyone was happy. On the bridge of a warship deep in Zethran space, Commander Vothkar read the reports. Humans succeeding where others failed. Humans becoming heroes. Humans gaining access to advanced technology and training. They're getting stronger, he said to High Counselor Draxthor over a secure channel. Yes, Draxthor replied, and that is exactly what I feared. Every mission makes them better. Every fight teaches them more. They're learning from dozens of species, adapting their techniques, improving their weapons. Should we warn the Council? Not yet. Let them see for themselves what humans become when you give them purpose, when you give them targets. In the contested zone, Morrison received a new assignment, a distress call from a colony on the border. Raiders were attacking. Heavy weapons.
Many casualties. How long until reinforcements arrive?
Morrison asked Whisper of Twilight. 6 hours, Admiral. Standard protocol is to wait for sufficient force before engaging. Morrison looked at the casualty reports. Hundreds dead already. Thousands more in danger. 6 hours is too long. We go now. Admiral, there are only 5 human ships available. The Raiders have 15 vessels. The odds are not favorable. The odds never are, Morrison replied. Chen, plot a course. Maximum speed. Hayes, prep your Marines. We're going in hot. The human fleet arrived at the colony 40 minutes later. The Raiders were still there, looting and destroying. They outnumbered the humans 3-1. Morrison didn't care. All ships weapons-free. Priority targets are the Raider vessels threatening the evacuation shuttles. Secondary targets are ground forces near civilian centers. Tertiary targets are everything else. The battle was chaos. The Raiders were experienced fighters, well-armed and aggressive. But they had never fought humans before. They didn't expect ships that moved like fighters despite being cruiser-sized. They didn't expect weapons that fired from unexpected angles. They didn't expect an enemy that seemed to predict their moves before they made them, because humans had been fighting each other for 10,000 years. Every tactic the Raiders used, every strategy, every trick, humans had seen it before, had used it before, had countered it before. The Raiders broke after 15 minutes. Their ships scattered, running in all directions. Morrison let most of them go. The mission was to save the colony, not win a glorious victory. But he made sure to destroy the Raider flagship. Message: touch civilians under human protection, and there are consequences. The colony survivors looked at their rescuers with awe and gratitude. The human Marines who landed to provide aid were professional and kind. They shared their rations. They treated the wounded. They helped rebuild damaged structures. You saved us, the colony administrator said to Hayes. The other peacekeepers would have waited, followed protocol. You came immediately. Hayes shrugged. That's what soldiers do. We protect people. It's the only thing we've ever been good at. The administrator looked confused. But you're warriors. Everyone says humans are dangerous, violent. We are, Hayes agreed. But there's a difference between being violent and being evil. We fight because we're good at it. Because someone has to. Because leaving people to die isn't something we can live with. Word of the colony rescue spread across the contested zone. Humans had saved thousands of lives against terrible odds. Other peacekeepers started requesting human assistance on difficult missions. Human ships became the first choice for dangerous assignments. Admiral Lisa Grant, now commanding Earth's expanding fleet, met with Morrison via long-range communication. You're becoming famous out there. The whole galaxy is watching. Is that good or bad? Morrison asked both. Some species are impressed. Others are more frightened than before. You're proving humans are effective warriors. That makes you valuable and dangerous at the same time. What's happening back home? Grant smiled. Construction is ahead of schedule. We have 30 new ships almost ready. Mars colonies are thriving. We've established mining operations on 6 moons. Earth is growing faster than anyone predicted. Because we're united, Morrison said. For the first time in history, all of humanity is working toward the same goal. No more wars between nations. No more resources wasted fighting each other. Do you think it will last? Morrison was quiet for a moment. I don't know, but I hope so, because if we can maintain this unity, if we can keep working together, there's no limit to what we can achieve. In a secure facility on Outpost 7, Captain Chen analyzed combat data from their recent missions. Something was bothering her. She pulled up recordings of raider tactics, smuggler patterns, terrorist operations. The Zethran fleet came down like a hammer. 50 ships broke from orbit, targeting military bases and industrial centers on every continent. Commander Vothkar had made his decision. Overwhelming force applied everywhere at once. It was the strategy that had worked on 47 worlds. Earth would be number 48. The first group of alien ships descended over Eastern Europe. They expected to find terrified primitives hiding in bunkers. Instead, they found something else waiting in the Carpathian Mountains. Deep inside the mountain range, buried under tons of rock, the Cerberus array had been sleeping for 30 years. It had been built during the Cold War, when Americans and Russians secretly cooperated on one project. Defense against threats from space. Now it woke up. 17 particle beam projectors fired at once. The beams were invisible, but their effects were not. 5 Zethran cruisers simply fell apart, cut in half by weapons that shouldn't exist on this primitive world. The remaining ships scattered in panic, their neat formation breaking into chaos. On the Zethran flagship, the tactical officer's voice was shaking. Commander, the humans have directed energy weapons. Advanced ones. More advanced than ours. Impossible, Vothkar snapped. They only discovered controlled fusion 30 years ago. Our intelligence is clear. Sir, I'm telling you what the sensors show. Those beams maintained coherent focus through atmosphere. We can't do that, Vothkar felt cold. His species had spent thousands of years developing their weapons. How could these primitives have surpassed them in any area? Over the Pacific Ocean, another group of Zethran ships prepared to destroy the naval fleet they detected below. Primitive ships made of metal floating on water. It would be like shooting fish in a barrel. The ocean exploded. Railgun rounds fired from underwater platforms created massive bubbles as they broke the surface. The projectiles were moving so fast they glowed white-hot. The Zethran point defense systems tried to track them but failed. The computers were programmed to stop missiles and energy beams, not solid metal moving at speeds that defied logic. 6 more alien ships fell from the sky, crashing into the ocean in pieces. Admiral Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of the USS Constellation, watching the display. Maintain firing pattern. Don't give them time to think. Commander Kyle Murphy, her tactical officer, looked up from his console. Ma'am, the alien fleet is trying to retreat to higher orbit. Denied, Grant said coldly. Light up the decoys. Across the ocean, 40 stealth ships revealed themselves. Suddenly, the Zethran sensors showed dozens of new human vessels appearing from nowhere. The aliens tried to target them, but their weapons hit only water. The signals were false, holographic projections from drones. The real ships fired from completely different positions. The Zethran died confused. In North Africa, 10 Zethran dreadnoughts concentrated over Cairo. Vothkar had ordered them to make an example. They would destroy the city completely, show Earth what happened to those who resisted. Their plasma cannons charged up, preparing to fire. Enough energy to turn sand into glass for hundreds of kilometers. Something rose from the desert. Something old. The Americans and Russians had built it decades ago and buried it in the sand. They called it Project Lazarus, a weapon powered by a nuclear explosion, designed to fire a beam of X-rays more powerful than anything else in existence. The weapon fired once. A pillar of invisible energy stabbed upward into space. It hit the lead dreadnought's reactor core directly. The alien ship didn't just explode. It became a miniature sun for 3 seconds. The antimatter fuel that powered Zethran ships was incredibly efficient. It was also incredibly dangerous when containment failed. The explosion consumed 2 nearby vessels instantly and crippled 5 others. Captain Morrison watched from the space station as red icons vanished from his display. Each one represented a dead alien ship. Status report. Lieutenant Amy Chen worked her console quickly. Zethran fleet has lost 43 ships. They're pulling back to high orbit. Our satellite network is tracking them. Deploy the orbital platforms, Chen hesitated. Sir, once we use those, they'll know. They'll know we've had space weapons all along. Morrison looked at her. They came to our home. They threatened our families. They tried to conquer our world. I don't care what they know anymore. Deploy the platforms. Around Earth's orbit, 200 satellites stopped pretending. For decades, they had posed as communication relays and weather monitors. Now their hulls opened, revealing what they really were. Weapons platforms. Hundreds of them. Rail guns extended from hidden bays. Laser arrays unfolded. Nuclear missiles armed themselves. And then there were the God rods. The kinetic bombardment satellites released their payloads. Simple tungsten poles 6 meters long and heavy as cars. They dropped toward the retreating Zethran ships. Gravity accelerated them faster and faster. When they hit, the impacts created explosions like nuclear bombs, but cleaner, pure kinetic energy. The Zethran shields held for the first impact. And the second? But the platforms kept firing. 3 rods per target, 5 rods. 10 rods shields failed. Hulls crumpled. Ships died in silence. Vothkar watched his fleet die. In 6 hours, he had lost 78 ships. More than half his fleet. Against a species that didn't even have faster-than-light travel. It was impossible. It was humiliating. It was terrifying. Full retreat, he ordered. His voice sounded hollow even to himself. All remaining ships, maximum acceleration. We need to leave this system and report to the Admiralty. But as his ships burned their engines hard, running away from Earth, a new message reached him. This time it wasn't from the planet's surface. It came from deeper in the solar system, from the darkness beyond Mars. General Paul Rogers appeared on every Zethran screen. But the view behind him was wrong. He wasn't on Earth, he was in space, looking out a window at stars. And behind him, running lights activated across something massive. Commander Vothkar of the Zethran Empire, Rogers said. His voice was calm but hard as steel. You came to our home. You threatened our children. You tried to make us slaves. The camera pulled back, showing more of what was behind Rogers. A ship, a human ship, 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons, powerful engines glowing bright. And behind it, more ships powered up. Many more. Did you really think we kept all our weapons where you could see them? Rogers asked. We've been building these for 60 years. Ever since we figured out we weren't alone in the universe. Welcome to Earth's real defense fleet. Vothkar couldn't speak. His mandibles hung slack. How? He finally managed. Your resources. Your technology. You shouldn't be able to do this. You should be centuries away from this capability. Rogers smiled, and there was no warmth in it. You still don't understand what we are. We don't build weapons because we need them. We build them because we're scared. Scared of the dark, scared of each other, scared of the universe. Fear makes us dangerous, Commander. It makes us prepare for threats that might never come. Except this time the threat did come. You came. The human warships began moving forward. They accelerated at rates that should have killed their crews from the force. The Zethran didn't know about inertial dampening. They didn't know about the artificial gravity systems. They didn't know about the 100 other technologies Earth had developed in secret. Run back to your empire, Rogers said. Tell them what happened here. Tell them Earth is not available for conquest. Tell them we defend our home, and tell them something else, Commander. Rogers leaned closer to the camera. His eyes were cold. Tell them that if they send another fleet, if they threaten us again, we won't just defend anymore. We'll come to them. We'll bring our ships and our weapons and our 10,000 years of experience in warfare, and we'll teach your empire the same lesson you tried to teach us. The transmission ended. Vothkar looked at his tactical display. 26 ships remaining from 130. His career was over. His reputation destroyed, but he was alive, which was more than he could say for thousands of his crew members. He gave the order to retreat. The surviving Zethran ships limped away from Earth's solar system as fast as their damaged engines could manage. Behind them, the human fleet maintained formation. Their weapons stayed locked on the retreating aliens. They could have fired, could have destroyed every last Zethran ship, but they didn't. They just watched the aliens run. The message had been delivered. Earth was not defenseless. Earth was not primitive. Earth was dangerous. In the command center, Morrison turned to his staff. Stand down from combat alert. Maintain watch on the retreating fleet. If they turn around, if they do anything except run away, destroy them. Yes, sir, Amy Chen replied. She looked tired but satisfied. Sir, we won. This round, Morrison said. But this isn't over. They'll be back. Maybe not the Zethran, but someone. Now that the galaxy knows we're here, knows we're dangerous, they'll have to decide what to do about us. What do we do? Chen asked. Morrison looked out at Earth, beautiful and blue below them. We do what we've always done. We prepare, we build, we make sure that next time we're even more ready than we were today. Across Earth, people celebrated. They had won. Beaten an alien invasion. Proved that humanity could stand together when it mattered. The celebrations would last for days, but in secret facilities and hidden bases, the real work was just beginning. More ships to build. 3 weeks after the battle, Commander Vothkar stood before the Zethran Council of War on their homeworld. His career was over. He knew that. But he had to make them understand what he had learned. The council members sat in their high seats looking down at him with cold eyes. High Counselor Draxthor spoke first. You lost over half the fleet to a primitive species. Explain. Vothkar displayed the battle data on the central hologram. Ships exploding, human weapons firing, the devastating effectiveness of Earth's defenses. They are not primitive, Counselor. Not in the ways that matter. Their general technology is behind ours, yes, but their weapons technology is advanced. In some areas it surpasses our own. Impossible, another counselor said. Our scouts confirmed their development level. They only achieved fusion power 30 years ago. Yet they have particle beam weapons, railguns that fire projectiles at relativistic speeds, and a hidden fleet of warships that should take centuries to build. Vothkar replied. They have spent their entire existence focused on one thing above all else. War. They learned to kill efficiently before they learned to travel the stars. Before they cured their diseases. Before they achieved peace among themselves. War came first. The council chamber went quiet. Draxthor accessed the historical database, searching for similar species. What he found made his blood run cold. There are 3 other species in galactic history with this development pattern, he said slowly. The Vrexian Horde, the Krell Dominion, the Shodar Collective. Every counselor knew those names. 3 species that had nearly destroyed the galaxy. 3 species that had been hunted to extinction because they were too dangerous to exist. Are you suggesting the humans are like them? Someone asked. I am suggesting they could become like them, Vothkar said quietly. They have the capacity, the aggression, the creativity. They are dangerous because they don't follow normal development patterns. They weaponize everything. Back on Earth, people were learning the truth. Captain Jake Morrison stood before the United Nations, his speech broadcast to every corner of the planet. For 78 years, we have known we were not alone, he began. In 1947, we recovered alien technology from a crash site. We studied it, reverse-engineered what we could. We prepared for the day when someone might come to Earth with bad intentions. The revelation shocked the world. Not that aliens existed. Everyone had seen the Zethran fleet, but that governments had hidden the truth for so long. Morrison continued. Every secret project, every unexplained military budget, every conspiracy theory about hidden bases and advanced weapons. Much of it was true. We built the orbital platforms. We built the particle beam arrays. We built the space fleet. We did it in secret because we couldn't risk panic. We couldn't risk our enemies, other human nations, getting the technology before we were all ready. Colonel Danny Hayes, now famous worldwide as the hero of Edwards Air Force Base, gave an interview. A reporter asked the question everyone wanted answered. Colonel, how did we advance so quickly? The Zethran had thousands of years head start. Hayes thought carefully before answering. We didn't advance quickly in everything. Our medicine is still developing. Our understanding of the universe is limited. Our social problems are far from solved. But warfare? That's what we do best. Every nation on Earth has spent thousands of years fighting. We've developed countless ways to destroy each other. When we got our hands on alien technology, our first question wasn't how to cure cancer or end poverty. It was how to make better weapons. Are you saying our violent history saved us? I'm saying our violent history made us dangerous, Hayes replied. We're not the most advanced species in the galaxy, but we might be the scariest, and the Zethran should have known that before they attacked. In a facility deep beneath the Pentagon, General Paul Rogers met with military leaders from around the world. The display showed Earth's solar system, with markers indicating construction sites and defense positions. The Zethran will report what happened here, Rogers said. We need to assume the next contact won't be an invasion. It might be diplomacy, or it might be extermination. Admiral Lisa Grant leaned forward. What's our strategy? We keep building. We accelerate every program. We establish bases on Mars and the outer moons. We prepare for either peace or war. Rogers looked around the table. We showed them we can defend Earth. Now we show them we can take the fight beyond our own planet if necessary. Lieutenant Amy Chen, now promoted to captain, raised her hand. Sir, do you think they'll leave us alone? Rogers was quiet for a moment. No, we proved we're dangerous. That makes us a threat. Every peaceful species in the galaxy probably developed peace before they developed advanced weapons. We did it backwards. We mastered destruction before we mastered creation. That makes us unpredictable, frightening. So what happens now? We prepare for the worst and hope for the best, Rogers said. We reach out carefully. We look for allies, and we make absolutely certain that anyone who thinks about attacking Earth knows what happened to the Zethran. On Corval Prime, the Zethran homeworld, High Counselor Draxthor issued a decree. Earth and its human inhabitants are classified as Category Red, potentially dangerous to galactic stability. We will not attempt further military action at this time. Instead, we will observe, monitor their development, and prepare for the day when the galaxy must decide what to do about them. A younger counselor spoke up. Should we warn the other species? Alert the Galactic Council? Draxthor considered this carefully. No. If we tell the Council we were defeated by a primitive species, they will ask difficult questions. They will want to know how we failed so badly. Better to watch quietly, to wait, to see what the humans do next. And if they expand beyond their solar system, then the galaxy will learn what we learned, Draxthor said quietly. That sometimes the most dangerous predator is not the strongest or the smartest. Sometimes it's the one that has been fighting since birth, the one that knows 1,000 ways to kill, the one that turns everything into a weapon. The Zethran placed observation platforms in the asteroid belt and beyond Neptune. They watched as Earth's construction accelerated, new ships taking shape in orbital yards, bases being established on Mars, mining operations on the moons of Jupiter. Humanity was expanding and doing it fast, but the Zethran weren't the only ones watching. Far across the galaxy, other species had heard rumors, whispers of a new species that defeated a Zethran fleet, a species that shouldn't be advanced enough to pose any threat. The Velen Concordance, a peaceful alliance of 7 species, debated what to do. Some argued for caution, others argued the humans should be contacted, perhaps guided toward a peaceful path. The warlike species saw opportunity. If humans were as dangerous as the rumors suggested, they might make useful allies, or dangerous enemies. And in the depths of space, truly ancient beings stirred. They had been watching the galaxy for millions of years. They remembered the Vrexian horde. They remembered the Krell. They remembered what happened when warrior species gained advanced technology. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal. But it was a new normal. People looked at the stars differently now. They knew they weren't alone. They knew the universe was dangerous. But they also knew something else. They could fight back. Captain Morrison stood at his console watching the construction feeds from the orbital shipyards. New vessels taking shape, bigger than the ones that had scared away the Zethran. Faster, better armed. Amy Chen stood beside him. Sir, do you think we're doing the right thing? Building all these weapons? Morrison didn't answer right away. Finally he said, I think we're doing what we've always done, preparing for threats. Maybe it's wrong. Maybe it makes us the bad guys in someone else's story. But after what happened, after the Zethran came here ready to enslave us all, I'd rather be alive and wrong than dead and peaceful. That's a dark way to look at it. Maybe, Morrison agreed. But we're a dark species, Amy. We've done terrible things to each other throughout our history. We've committed genocides, started wars over resources and beliefs. We've nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times. The darkness is part of who we are. The Zethran didn't understand that. They thought technology determined strength, They were wrong. He turned to face her. Strength comes from survival. From adapting. From learning. We learn to survive by being dangerous, by being unpredictable, by never giving up no matter how bad things got. That's what makes us human. That's what saved us. Chen looked out at the shipyards. And now we take that darkness to the stars. Now we take everything we are to the stars, Morrison corrected. The good and the bad. The creativity and the violence. The hope and the fear, all of it. The galaxy is about to meet humanity. The real humanity. Not the primitive species the Zethran expected. Not the peaceful explorers we might have been. But the species we actually are. Warriors, Chen said softly. Survivors, Morrison replied. There's a difference. Warriors fight because they love battle. We fight because we refuse to die. We fight because someone threatened our home. We fight because that's how we've always survived. In the months that followed, Earth changed. Nations that had been enemies for generations worked together. Resources were shared. Technology was exchanged. Not because humanity had suddenly become peaceful. The Zethran Empire had conquered 47 star systems in less than a century. Their ships were massive, their weapons powerful, and their armies had never lost a major battle. When they found Earth, they thought it would be easy. Just another primitive planet to add to their collection. Commander Vothkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the data his scouts had gathered. The planet was small, blue, and orbiting an average yellow star. The beings who lived there called themselves humans. They were weak, divided, into hundreds of small nations that constantly fought each other. Their technology was laughable. They still used chemical rockets to reach space, and nuclear weapons were their most powerful tools. Vothkar clicked his mandibles together in satisfaction. This would take less than a week, maybe just days. His fleet consisted of 130 warships, each one capable of destroying cities from orbit. The humans had nothing that could stop them. On Earth, Captain Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when everything changed. He worked at the International Space Defense Network, a facility that watched satellites and tracked space debris. It was usually boring work. Today would be different. Lieutenant Amy Chen called out from her station. Her voice was tight with confusion. Sir, we have contacts entering the solar system. Multiple contacts. They're heading straight for us. Morrison set down his coffee cup and walked over to her screen. How many are we talking about? 12? No, 15, 20. Sir, they keep coming. These aren't asteroids or comets. They're moving under power. They're slowing down. Within minutes, every space agency on the planet had confirmed it. Alien ships. Real alien ships. Not a movie, not a drill. They were coming to Earth, and they would arrive in 3 days. The world went quiet. People stopped fighting their small wars. They stopped arguing about politics and money. Everyone looked up at the sky and waited. General Paul Rogers called an emergency meeting. Leaders from every major nation joined the video call. American generals, Russian commanders, Chinese admirals, European defense ministers. They all saw the same data. We have to assume they're hostile, Rogers said. His face was hard, lined with age and experience. They haven't answered any of our messages. We've tried radio, lasers, even basic math sequences. Nothing. They're ignoring us. Maybe they don't understand, someone suggested. Or maybe they don't care, Admiral Lisa Grant replied. She commanded the Pacific Fleet and had seen enough in her career to trust her instincts. They're positioning themselves above our cities. That's not a friendly move. On the third day, the Zethran fleet arrived. Their ships were enormous, blocking out the sun as they took positions over New York, Moscow, Beijing, London, and a dozen other major cities. People in the streets looked up and saw metal giants hovering in the sky. Then every screen on Earth lit up. Every television, every computer, every phone. The same face appeared everywhere. Vothkar's image was alien and frightening. His translator turned his words into every human language at once. Primitive beings of this world, you have been chosen for integration into the Zethran Empire. You will surrender your weapons and disband your governments. If you resist, you will be eliminated. You have 24 hours to comply. The message ended. The world held its breath. In the command center, Morrison looked at his team. Amy Chen spoke first, her voice calm despite everything. They have no idea who they're dealing with, do they? Morrison smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret. No, they really don't. The Zethran waited exactly 24 hours. When no surrender came, Vothkar gave the order. It was time to show these primitives what happened when they refused the Empire. 3 ships descended through the atmosphere toward North America. Their target was a military base in California, Edwards Air Force Base. The Zethran expected fear. They expected chaos. What they got was something very different. Colonel Danny Hayes stood on the runway, watching the alien ships come down. He was 47 years old and had fought in 3 wars. He'd seen things that would give most people nightmares. These aliens didn't scare him. They just made him angry. The Zethran ships hovered 300 meters above the base. Their weapons began to glow, charging up to fire. They would destroy this base as a demonstration, show Earth what resistance would cost. Hayes lifted his radio. All units, weapons free. Time to show them what we've been hiding. The first fighter jet rose from a hidden hangar, then another, then another. Within seconds, 60 aircraft filled the sky. But these weren't the jets the Zethran had seen in their scans. These were different. Faster. Deadlier. The F-40 Wraith fighters moved like nothing the Zethran had ever seen. They turned impossibly fast, accelerated like missiles, and flew patterns that should have torn them apart. The aliens tried to target them, but the human ships were too quick. Then the railguns fired. Tungsten rods, moving at incredible speeds, punched through the Zethran shields like they weren't even there. The aliens had designed their shields to stop energy weapons and plasma blasts. Nobody had told them humans preferred simpler solutions, like throwing very hard pieces of metal very, very fast. The first Zethran ship exploded. The second tried to run, but missiles caught it. Nuclear missiles. Small ones, but powerful enough. The third alien ship managed to fire once, carving a long trench across the desert. Then it died too, torn apart by sustained fire. The entire battle lasted 4 minutes. On the Zethran flagship in orbit, Vothkar stared at his screen in disbelief. 3 ships, gone. Destroyed by primitives who shouldn't even have energy weapons yet. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the surface," his communications officer said. "From their leaders?" "No, sir. From the base we attacked." Colonel Hayes appeared on screen. He was standing in front of burning Zethran wreckage, and he was smiling. "Attention, Zethran fleet. That was your first lesson. We're not as primitive as you think. We're humans. We've spent 10,000 years learning how to kill each other. Congratulations. You just became our new project." Hayes stopped smiling. His face went cold. "You should have talked first. Now it's too late. We don't negotiate with invaders. We destroy them." The screen went dark. Vothkar felt something he'd never experienced in his military career. Doubt. He reviewed the battle data again. The human weapons were crude but effective. Brutally effective. And the way they fought, with such precision and aggression, it spoke of long experience. These beings had been at war their entire history. With themselves. He opened a channel to his fleet. "All ships, combat alert, prepare for full assault. We will crush this resistance immediately." But even as he gave the orders, doubt gnawed at him. What kind of species spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing? What kind of world produced warriors before it produced peace? On Earth, military leaders watched the footage from Edwards. General Rogers addressed his command staff. "Everything we've built in secret for the last 70 years, every black project, every hidden weapon, it all comes out now." "How do we coordinate between nations?" someone asked. Rogers shook his head. "We don't need to coordinate. Every country on Earth knows how to fight. We've been practicing on each other for centuries. Now we just need to point in the same direction." Lieutenant Chen looked at her console. "Sir, detecting massive energy signatures from the alien fleet. They're preparing a major attack." Captain Morrison nodded. "Good. Let them come down where we can reach them. Alert all defense networks. Time to show them what Earth really is." Across the planet, hidden weapons came online. Satellites that weren't really satellites armed their guns. Missiles and submarines locked onto targets in the sky. Railguns hidden in mountains calculated firing solutions. Laser arrays buried underground powered up. Humanity, divided and argumentative for its entire existence, united for the first time. Not in peace, but in war. The Zethran were about to learn what that meant.